What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Rip the Net. My name is Eric.
I'm Dre.
And I'm Alexi.
And we're excited to be back. Three friends just talking culture, talking sports. How you guys doing this week?
I'm chilling, not a crazy week, although my team did lose over the weekend, so I'm sure we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, my team won, but very narrowly, so somewhat satisfied, surprisingly.
Yeah. Hope everyone's having a good start to their week. We're recording this on January 27th of 2025. And so, the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the upcoming Jordan Bred ones release. And the reason why I want to talk about this today is because we're a little bit over 2 weeks removed from the release date. And so I am very curious. I'm very torn, to be honest with y'all, on how I feel about these. These are a nostalgic shoe for sure. But before I give my piece, I want to hear, what are y'all thinking? Do y'all even like Jordan 1s? Is this something that you guys are considering picking up at all?
Yeah, for me, I do like Jordan 1s. They're a classic. I will say the Breds are ones I've wanted for a really long time, but I also know I probably have no chance of getting these because these are based on the original 1985 model. And from what I understand, they're only releasing, I want to say like maybe not 2,000, maybe 10,000 pairs, some really low quantity of shoes. So it's not going to be easy to get these. And on that hand, it's disappointing, but it is cool to see that when making this shoe, they really tried to make it like the 85 original in every possible way, with the materials, with the dyes, with everything. So it's cool to see, and it's a cool way to bring Jordan, and especially Jordan 1, back into the culture. But realistically, probably won't be able to get these.
For sure. I mean, I know that as a whole, the sneaker market has taken a bit of a hit. So, Alexia, I have been paying attention to the upcoming releases and a little bit of what the market's looking like. But do you have like an estimation on what these would go for, like for resale?
My guess off the rip, I mean, from what I understand, I think a version of the Chicago's are releasing later this year or in a couple months. And those are already reselling in some sizes for like under retail. But there's going to be a larger quantity of those. So because these are limited and because they're that original 85 version cut, I think these are probably going to go for something like 600 tops maybe with this market. If they go for more than that, I would be really surprised. But sure. I'm guessing 500-600.
Got you. Yeah, no, chances are looking slim, man. I remember when these came out in 2016 and we were in high school. And I think at that point I was still in that like phase where you kind of put a shoe on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember really wanting them and kind of missing out. So I don't know. It hurts to see how, low quantity these will come out. But I think considering how bad the sneaker market has been, I know it's kind of going back up right now, but over the past year, and even more than just over the past year, like over the past couple of years, it has been on a bit of a decline. So it's cool to see something just get hot again. But on a selfish level, I do wish I could get my hands on these, not gonna lie. How about you, Dre?
Yeah, personally, I've never been big into ones. Like, I like the idea of ones, and I like the look of them. But on feet, for me, they just don't work. So
they're not comfortable.
yeah. And I'm a big, part of the reason why I got out of sneakers so early on was one, because my feet were growing crazy in high school, and I just like, nah, screw this. I'm just wasting money, especially talking about fantasizing over a shoe. years and years. I was like, Aqua 8s, whenever they drop, I'm getting them. And I got them, and like a month later, I outgrew them, and I was tight. Like for I held on to them for like 3 or 4 years. Like, okay, just once a year, that moment comes, I'm gonna pop out, I'm gonna squeeze my feet into them, and it was not worth it. It was not worth it. So like, I
Loosen
kind
the
of fell off
laces,
sneakers.
pull out the insole.
Everything possible, bro. Wearing dress socks, they're super thin, bro. Like everything, bro.
Yo, I
was
forgot.
crazy.
I used to do that. Yo,
Crazy.
yo, I
So-
used to do that.
No, 100%. Like you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, especially when they weren't cheap. So you gotta do what you gotta
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So I would not be looking for these, but I hope y'all, if you're going for them, you get them. I saw a picture of a Carmelo, just for the youngins out there wearing these, and I'm not gonna lie, they didn't look too good on feet for him either. But
That's crazy.
it was cool to see him. Cool to see the 85 cut.
Black and red is always a classic in my eyes. Like you can never
Yo,
do wrong with those.
100%. Yeah. And man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get these are the original Jordan ones coming out, and maybe like old heads would get angry at me saying this. Like, conceptually, I love the idea of the original 85s coming back out. But something about the look of these, like, because the cut is a little higher, I believe it's higher. Like, just when I see the pictures, they don't. Something seems off, and I feel like it's the cut. Maybe it's the leather as well. But like, they don't look as nice as, say, I don't know. When I saw the Chicago ones, like the reimagined ones, come out, like, how long ago was that? Like a couple years back? Like,
Yeah, a year or 2 years ago, something like that.
yeah, like those always looked fresh to me, and honestly, I would not be against buying a pair now that the price is kind of lowered. But when I look at these 85s, look at these Breds, they look cool, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I don't know if they hit the way other ones would hit. But I'm not sure if I stand alone on that. So
That's fair. I definitely prefer the more modern cut. My favorite pair, which I have, are like the Obsidian ones, which I think dropped in like 2019 or 2020, and the leather on those is like a bit more plush. Like you can visibly see it's like a tumbled leather. These you can straight up tell just from the pictures that looks stiff. It does not look like it's going to be soft leather. I could be wrong. Maybe people got it in hand and they're saying the opposite, but just from the pictures and how they look, it doesn't even look like they'll be comfortable. For me, though, it's all about the style, the fit, the type of pants you can wear with those. Like I just need them. I need these Breds, and if I don't get these, the Chicagos that do come out, I need something though. I'm taking L's from Nike. I've been taking L's for the past year or so. It feels like.
I deleted the Nike app ages ago, man. I hung it up a while ago, but it's cool, man. That's cool. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the resale's looking like on these. I doubt I'll get my hands on these just because times are tough, man. I don't think I got the means to be spending 500, 600 plus on some sneakers, but I won't lie. Past me has dropped some serious bread. I just don't think I'm at that age anymore where I think that it's worth it.
Fair enough.
Not that I'm for fakes, but seeing how and we'll talk about that maybe another day, but seeing how much fakes have taken over and how prominent they've become, I'm always for the OGs, but just dropping that money just is not for me.
Yeah.
I hear that.
They've been raising the prices like crazy the past few years, which is why the sneaker market even is what it is right now. It just wasn't sustainable.
1000%. Cool, man. All right, man. Well, the next order of business I wanted to get to, the 2025 NBA All-Star starters have been announced. Within the Western Conference, we have Steph Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic. And then in the Eastern Conference, we have Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Karl Anthony Towns making the starting lineup. So, reactions, thoughts, anything staying out from the jump?
Where is Wemby, bro? Where is Wemby?
Really?
I'll say, to be fair, just to be clear with the viewers, I've not been keeping up super heavy with the NBA this season. But what I have seen, and maybe it's just bias because, he was the number one pick and the media is hyped over him. But I've been seeing a lot of Wemby on my timeline and a lot of Wemby in my YouTube sub box. I think ESPN loves Wemby, man. I think ESPN loves Wemby. And maybe I'm just getting fed more Wemby than anyone else. But from what I've seen, man, like at least he looks like the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. I think that has to be taken into consideration. I know obviously he's competing with legends to get those spots, but where's Wemby, man? Why? You tell me, Eric, as someone who's been very heavily into the NBA and following, does LeBron deserve that spot? Does KD deserve that spot? Tell me.
Here's what I think, man. Well, first I'm gonna get to your Wemby point. I think Wemby would make sense. I think this is what the thing with all-star starters. For those who don't know, like these are named based on the fan vote, based on the player vote, and then the media also gets a vote. So to be honest, I think I take the starters announcement like legitimately, like I've kind of over the past few years I've pivoted away from taking in like ESPN or like the big media outlets just because I feel like they dramatize a lot of the league's like narratives. Like why are we talking about the Lakers when they're a playing team? Kind of thing, but it's neither here nor there. But that being said, because the starters are named by fans, players, and media, I think the final result is a legitimate one and reflects like an ultimate like consensus. So seeing, and I guess this is gonna answer both of your questions. Seeing Jokic get the starting spot over Wemby, I'm not mad at it. I think Jokic has respect around the league. He's considered the greatest player in the world, in the NBA. And so I think that's worth respecting. The ring, I think, so when I look at Bron, when I look at KD, and obviously Jokic again, the rings, and in Jokic's case, it's only one, but the championships won, I think, do hold some weight when it comes to putting like the superstars who have been at the top for years. I think those rings do hold weight, and I think are the reason why they stick around. So Wemby, I wouldn't have been mad at him getting the starting spot. Like he's been playing well. He's honestly been on a tear, and it's looking scary, for the league. But we also got to be honest, man. Like the Spurs are a 12 seed, and I think that does hold some weight. And we're gonna get to the Eastern Conference in a bit, but you look at, and granted, Suns ain't doing too hot, but they're the 8th seed, right? And so that's KD. Lakers, I know I said they were a playing team before. Right now they're playing all right. They're the 5 seed at the time of this recording. But I don't know if I can name players who I feel like deserve that respect over Jokic, over KD, and over LeBron. That's just how I feel. But there's clear snubs, right? Like Jaren Jackson Jr. is one. Domantas Sabonis is another one. Wemby, you just mentioned, a huge one. But I'm not sure if I'm taking any of those players over the 3 legends. This is also a sentimental All-Star game. Who knows how many All-Star games we have left with LeBron and KD.
I don't care. I do not
and
care.
Steph. Really?
Screw it, guys. Like, For me, I mean, obviously they're legends of the game and have been the legends that we've grown up watching. But
How they still around, bro?
that too, they're
At this
juicing on
level.
something, bro. Allegedly, I'm just joking. Obviously, they have crazy sports science that people in the past did not have, especially Braun. This dude's doing like 5 hours of hyperbolic chamber a day, bro. Like, it's just crazy. But for me personally, I don't know if this is what you're saying. I don't put words in your mouth. Are you saying those rings hold weight and that's how it should be, or do you disagree, like I do, that the rings should be irrelevant to this current season?
I think they hold weight, and I think, like, if you could name me a play, like Wemby is interesting because I think if this was a positionless list, then okay, I think you have a legit argument for
Put him at the 4. Why not?
But then it goes back to that seeding conversation. And here's the thing, it's the same argument with like MVP. There isn't a legit criteria that you can always go by to name these players. So it's always a little bit ambiguous. It's not like, we're looking at the same criteria year in and year out, which, could be a problem. Some people may have a problem with that. I personally don't. It goes back to why I enjoy the fact that the media, the fans, and the players get a vote. But I don't know.
I don't think
man.
that's accurate though. Like I think I understand why all 3 of those get a vote, but we all know that once you bring in a fan vote, even if it's only a portion of the vote, that you're not really gonna get an honest vote, in my opinion. Maybe I'm underestimating NBA fans, but name like value and the weight of those names, I think in some cases outweigh maybe stats or like the reality of how people are playing. Of course, you can bring in seeding as well. But from what I'm seeing, the Warriors are the 11th seed, the Kings are the 10th seed. So where's De'Aaron Fox over Steph? Obviously, Steph's a way bigger name. I'm saying if we're being fair, that should be way closer than I assume it was, personally. But and I also
I got to agree. Without having kind of the knowledge you two do of these players and specifically how well they're doing this season, I do think that if it's a new season, a new year, a new all-star game, the people who are starting that game, it should be based on how they're performing right now, how they've been performing the past couple of months. It shouldn't be based on a ring they won 4 years ago, 2 years ago. That shouldn't have any basis in that, I think.
But I also like to counter that argument a little bit as well. Like, it's also, I mean, we've made some decent progress throughout the season. Like, it's where they've hit at the time of the announcement, they were just about at the halfway point. But even then, like, the sample size for basketball, I think it's fair to say, like, just half a season, it's hard to just gauge, like, okay, this player's doing so well, so like automatically, or this team is doing so well, so we got to reward this player. And maybe it's, maybe some people think it should be that way, but like an example is like the Rockets are the 2 seed. I don't see a Şengün, I don't see a Jalen Green, I don't see a Fred VanVleet. Who knows if they make the roster? Maybe Şengün makes the reserves. But I just don't know if I would personally like that. Like, if Şengün made it over Jokic based on the fact that he's playing for a team that has been performing better, or say like Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies makes it over Kevin Durant. He's on the 3 seed. He's on the Grizzlies. They're the 3 seed. They've been playing well. Like, I don't know if I'd be a fan of that. I think on paper, yes, it makes sense to reward how they're doing at the moment, but I think these names hold weight, and I personally think, like, I think this is the best start. I'm gonna just say it straight up. Like, I think this is the best lineup we could have gotten. And maybe that's just me being biased. We're going to get to the Eastern Conference in a minute. I say once again, I think I would have been upset at a Jaren Jackson Jr. being named, a Wemby being named over. Actually, Wemby, I wouldn't have been too surprised by, but Jokic is also a former MVP, like back-to-back MVP at that. So, like, I think if anything, his spot is cemented. Jokic is also dealing with a roster that hasn't really been helping him in winning those games. Like the Nuggets are that seed because of the supporting cast, and I know that's a little contradictory to my other claims about the seeding, but the point is, like, I think it's a combination of those things. It's not just based on individual stats. It's not just based on, and that's why I think it's so cool that there isn't just one criteria. At the end of the day, I do think these are the best 5 players in the Western Conference.
Interesting. I feel like we have a fundamental disagreement about like how things like this are selected. So maybe that's a debate we can have another day too. But I think things like this should not be like lifetime achievement awards. I think it's interesting. You could look at it both ways. Like you're saying, you could bring in their past achievements, the weight of their name, and say, okay, that has influence. I mean, especially if there's a fan vote, of course it has influence. Especially even the media, players are going to glaze the other players that they looked up to before they even got into the league as well. So of course that's going to have an impact. But for me, you can look at it the other way, where if you say, okay, the name value comes in, so we're going to give these guys, even if it's maybe potentially should really give it to someone else, I think you're hurting the potential of these newer players because there's no guarantee of their future. Like Wemby, knock on wood, can get injured next month and never make another All-Star game for the rest of his career. Obviously going to make the game anyway, but like being named as a starter or like things like that, I think you can't rob, not saying this is a robbery necessarily, but in general, you can't rob people, especially for like MVPs. I hate when people say, oh, this person should win MVP because of this in the previous years, or like this person shouldn't win MVP because we're kind of tired of him. Like, I hate that fatigue argument. Like things like that, I think are really important. But I also think All-Star is different from MVP. Whereas like MVP, I think seeding should come into play. But for me, All-Star seeding isn't as important to me personally. I think if like just all out how you're playing, your stats should be most important for All-Star. Because I think if you're on the worst team in the league, but you're a baller, there's not much you can really do about that to bring up their seeding, but doesn't mean you shouldn't be an All-Star, in my opinion. But I know you want to talk about the Eastern Conference as well.
Fair. Yeah, no, for sure. And I will just respond to that by saying, yeah, I do think there is a disagreement there. So I'd be happy to get into that in another episode. But this is actually a good segue, because if we're looking at a player from a team that's at the bottom of the table, at the bottom of the standings, but they've been hooping. I don't know, man. Like I look at the selection of Jalen Brunson, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad to see him in the starting point guard. For those who don't know, I am a diehard Knicks fan, so I'm so happy to see 2 Knicks players in the starting lineup. It's been 50 years since since there have been more than one, or I guess 2 players in the starting lineup from the New York Knicks. So this is huge to me. This is crazy to me. There's a lot of people who are angry about LaMelo, the other Melo, being left out the starting lineup. And here's one thing I also will say. People are gonna be mad at whatever. Like people are gonna have something to say about it. I feel like the moment the reserves come out, no one really remembers who was named the start and who was named a reserve. I'm sure the players do. I'm sure these 10 individuals are gonna, remember this and hold it as an accolade. But when you look up LeBron James, you don't see, how many All-Star appearances? This is 21st. You don't see 21st time All-Star starter, like you don't see like that. Whether they were a starter or not isn't included in the accolade. It's just included that they were selected for the game. And granted, there's still 7 more players from each conference that are going to be named. So the pool is still very thin, and the criteria, the bar is set very high. But I think people are upset right now. LaMelo will make the All-Star team. If he does not, then it's a whole another argument. But I think people are gonna forget about where's X player. Like Wemby, for example, he will be a reserve, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So, like this is all to say, happy to see Brunson and Cat there. I think LaMelo's gonna make it, and so he will still get his flowers. And then you look at the other 3 positions. Donovan Mitchell, he has been hooping this year. He has been going crazy. His Cavs are at the 1 seed, and then you got Tatum, who's at the 2 seed with the Celtics at the 3. There's people who may say, "Where's Jaylen Brown?" I think Mitchell deserves it over Brown. I'm also not a Celtics fan, so I'm a little biased. So people may get mad at that, but I stand on that. And then Giannis, man, I think goes back to what I was saying about Jokic, KD, and LeBron. Man, this is a former MVP. This is someone who he's actually picked it up with the Bucks. That team has been slowly creeping back into the conversation. So happy to see him there as well. He's a 4 seed, so I also think it's well deserved. But yeah, all in all, very satisfied with this list. Any other comments from y'all?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I won't rehash the same arguments about the Western Conference as the Eastern Conference, but I'm happy for you. Happy the Knicks have multiple starters. I'm sure, like you said, I agree completely that whether they're a starter or a reserve is not really that relevant. Like once they actually are playing, or like a year from now, we're not going to really care that much. So it's not really that big a deal. And I think even I was reading in the article we read before this that because there's a new format anyway for this All-Star weekend. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but from what I'm seeing, there's 3 8-man teams, and there's going to be like the Rising All-Star winning team. So I'm still assuming they're going to play 5-on-5 and then 3 on the bench. That's what I'm guessing. If that's wrong, you can correct me. But if that's the case, then there's going to be more starters than these 10 anyway. So that doesn't even seem relevant. Now, I don't know why the voting was done this way. And if that's not how it's working, then let me know. But for me, it seems like this is even more relevant than before.
That's fair. And I guess we have to see how it's going to play out. I'm really curious to see how the teams will be divided. Like, is it going to be Team LeBron, Team KD, and Team Steph? Like, are they going to be named the 3 captains, and then they select their respective 8 players for their teams? I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens, but we'll see. Time will tell, and I'll also be happy to hop into a conversation at some point, just how we feel about the overall game, like the new format. Clearly, the NBA is throwing anything and everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see how this year turns out. But that means I'll be watching, which I'm buying into it. I'm feeding into what they want. So we'll see how it unfolds. But cool, man. Dre, do you want to get to the next talking point?
Yeah, actually, I'll let Alexi tee this one up because I know he's excited for this one.
My fault.
No,
you good. You good. So, wanted to talk about the recent game from this past weekend between Manchester City, Chelsea. Probably the biggest game of the weekend, and it was all the more surprising when Chelsea scored in the 3rd minute, taking the lead, which I don't think anyone was really expecting, to be fair. I thought there'd be a bit more of a fight before a goal like that. But over the course of the game, unfortunately, Chelsea did end up going down. I was praying on City's downfall, praying it would continue with this game, but unfortunately, they were able to bounce back for the win. And I'm curious what you guys, if you have any thoughts on the game, how it went, Chelsea's position, City's position. I know City started 2 of their new players. I'm looking up their names now. Hold on. There's
Kusanov
Marmoush,
and,
Kusanov. Is it Kushanov or Kusanov?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Yeah.
something
Well,
like that.
there's Kushanov and Marmoush, and one of them had a better game than the other. That's for sure. So
A lot of passion into that name.
a lot of passing.
I said a lot of passion into that name.
Yeah,
Like,
Marmoush.
Marmoush.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think Marmoush looks exciting. I was excited for him to come to the Prem. Obviously, I was hoping it would not be for City, but I think he's exactly what they needed. He's like a dynamic player that can switch up their attack from how it has been. It's been very stagnant the last few months. Kusanov, that guy, rough start. I ain't gonna lie, rough start.
Very.
He had a howler. It's tough. He's a young guy. You could tell he looks young. He's only 20, I think, and he's from the French league. So it's a big step up.
Farmers League to the Prem is a bit of a jump.
Crazy disrespect, but not wrong necessarily. And yeah, it was tough. He looked like he was gonna cry, honestly, after he had that. That when he
Yeah, I would too after giving that goal away.
Yeah, it was
I
tough.
mean, I don't even know what he was trying to do there. I mean, watching the replays, just the decision making was just very questionable.
Not there.
But you could say the same about Sanchez, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll get to him. We'll get to him. But I'll say Kusanov, to be fair to him, I think post that, and I think he had one more little misstep, but I think generally until he got taken off, I think he got taken off 50th, 60th minute around there. He wasn't terrible after that. I think he was decent. He started to build a bit of confidence. I think he'll be decent moving forward, but obviously that's a rough start. But yeah, Marmoush, I don't think he played the whole game either, but I'm very curious to see.
He had a lot of chances.
And he looked confident taking shots from distance. It was kind of a crazy whiff, but I'm very curious how Pep is going to utilize him, because it was interesting having him and Foden kind of play behind Haaland, play off of him, but then that meant there was no role for Doku or Savinho really. But then they had Gvardiol and Nunes pushing up the wings. It was a very interesting setup that I was not expecting, but it's good to see that Pep. I know you hate Man City, so you wouldn't say good to see for you, but
gotta respect.
It's interesting to see, some tactical flexibility. I think Pep's acknowledged that his style, he has to switch it up. It has not been working. The game's evolving, even if it's because of injuries, whatever. Obviously, you don't have Rodri. You have to switch it up, and he did this game. For some reason, teams like to switch it up against Chelsea, which is really annoying. I remember Man U earlier this season, they finally sacked Ten Hag, and then we got I think the Ruben Amorim game, which is really annoying. I don't know why teams are doing that against us, but it was.
Hey man, you're also stuck with Sancho.
Yeah. Oh my God, this guy. You hate on Sancho from you.
He ain't all that, bro. He got the same stats as Martinez this season.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't say he's all that either, but you just hate him crazy. But I understand he didn't do anything for
reasonably you. So, as a Man United fan, reasonably so.
He did not do anything for you. He went back to Dortmund, started cooking again. It wasn't a match. It was not a match for United.
No.
But in this game, though, I will say, Gvardiol looked dangerous. As a left back, or I guess he was playing a left wing back, I guess, in this game. He looked pretty much playing winger half the time. He was pushing up. He looked more dangerous than any of the other attackers in some ways, and which is interesting because I would have thought his future is morphing more into a center back. But I guess Pep really sees him out on that wing.
I see him there too, honestly, and I was actually a bit surprised with his goal because I think it was Reece James who was meant to be covering him, and there was no commitment to the defense for that goal. He was jogging for a little bit and then chose to sprint, and that gave it away for City. But I agree, the positioning there is definitely a bit different from what you'd expect, but worked out in the end.
Yeah, and also Nani Madueke, dude, has no defensive work rate. You gotta work on that. Bro. And the thing is, he's fast, so he could track. Obviously, Vardiol's fast for a defender too, but he could help track. But that dude's all about the goals.
After City tied it up, I think it became pretty clear who was dominant in the game and who was going to have more chances, unfortunately.
Yeah. For some reason,
Palmer ghosted.
Yeah, don't hate on Palmer, man.
I'm not hating. I'm just acknowledging.
Yeah, no. People are saying Palmer is not a big game player, and I beg to differ. If you look at the Euros final, he clearly is a big game player in my opinion. But if you look at his stats, like 55 goal contributions and 51 starts for Chelsea, he's a cooker. He's a cooker, a chef. One might say. I don't know what the hell a cooker is, man. Well, it's a rice cooker, but he's also not 100% right now. So I think it's not fully on him. There's only so much you can do with the players around you at times. For some reason, Chelsea. This is a management problem for me, where it's like we're playing a high line, but we're also not really pressing. So like, City can just tear us apart all day with those long balls because we're not really making it tough for them, like to pick out those passes. I don't know what that's about.
And Holland has the strength also to just hold up that ball and play with the rest of the team. Chelsea can't really do anything about it.
It's a perfect style for him. And I don't. That's the one thing I didn't understand why Pep didn't revert to that earlier in the season. When things obviously weren't working out. Holland, when he's running, is nearly impossible to stop. Like doing this little tap thing, trying to get him involved that way, it doesn't really work. I think it can work if you have a De Bruyne who's fully fit and can fire in crazy balls to him. But this, where Holland's like, you just play it over. Holland can either hold someone off because he's tall and strong, or he can just run alongside someone and no one's keeping up with him. It's a nightmare, honestly, for any defense.
What was your reaction to that second goal then?
Holland's goal?
Yeah,
second
goal. Yeah.
Let me pull up the replay real quick.
Yeah,
just to remind myself.
Then. Yeah, that's the Sanchez howler.
That was the Sanchez. Yeah,
the second howler, because the dude should have caught the first ball that Rodri ended up scoring anyway. This guy, I'll let you talk first.
No. Go ahead. I hear the passion in your voice.
As a Chelsea fan, this guy has got to go. Robert Sanchez. I don't know how the hell you've conned your way into being a Premier League starter. I know he was at Brighton before. Brighton keep just shipping us players, and they know they can slide in some terrible ones with the good ones. Because Caicedo, he's stepped up his game. Cucurella stepped up his game. But Sanchez and Maresca, after the game, said, we're sticking by Sanchez. I don't know what Sanchez has on him. It's got to be some kind of blackmail. This dude is terrible. And we have Jorgensen on the bench, who was one of the best keepers in Spain last year. He's just sitting there wondering, when can I leave? Because obviously you're not getting playing time over this dude who literally is playing back and forth, thinking he's a center back trying to mark Holland. And Holland, obviously the best finisher in the world, chips it over because you're terrible, bro. Like this, bro, I can go on for
the decision making too. Like we just said, Holland, when he's running full speed 1v1, 90% of the time, he's probably going to win that fight and have a shot on goal. So you as the goalkeeper, when you're that far away too, and you see this 1v1 is coming, just making the decision to, instead of retreating back into your box, back into the goal, to go after it is crazy. Yeah. It's criminal. I mean, that's like middle school level decision making. I don't understand. I truly don't. I mean,
if you're going to commit to it, obviously it was the wrong decision. But if you're going to commit to it,
fully commit then. This dude dive in there, take a yellow or something.
Something. I just don't understand how we think we can actually be a contending team with this guy as our starting keeper. Surely Maresca's just doing this just to satiate him for a little bit. But this summer, after the summer he's still on the team, this has to be sabotage, like actual sabotage. Because we'll talk about him too right now anyway. I'll just bring him in as well. Jackson, Palmer laid it on a plate for him early in the game. And this dude, for some reason, cannot shoot with his weak foot. And he had to take a touch. And we could have been 2-0 up. And then,
I will say, actually, I recall, I think Palmer's ball also was not that great.
It wasn't a perfect pass. But if you're a clinical striker, especially if you're running in motion, you slot that away. Like obviously Holland's left-footed, so it's different. But even like
Yeah.
I don't know, Mbappe. It's not fair to like compare him to the best, but even like general Chris Wood is putting that away. Like it's a simple enough. If you have a weak foot, tap in. But this guy just has no confidence for his weak foot, and I don't want to hate on him. He would be an amazing backup striker for Chelsea in our ideal starting 11. But we can't have. I don't think any team can hope to have aspirations if you have a non-clinical striker and a terrible goalkeeper. And I'm sure United, you're familiar with that. But
More with the striker part, but
but even Onana, who has like mistakes in his game, you can't have both, because then you're gonna lose on both ends. You either have to have, if you're gonna have a bad keeper, you have to have a crazy striker, so we're just outscoring teams even if we're conceding, or we have to have a very good goalkeeper, and like when Jackson takes his one chance every 5 games, we're winning games 1-0 at least. But we can't have it both ways. We're having a terrible keeper and a non-clinical striker. We just can't. So one of them has to go. Hopefully it's Sanchez, but yeah, we just can't do it.
It's like FIFA Pro Clubs, man. You can't have a good team across the board. Just you can only have one good part. The actual people playing the game. Yeah. All right. Well, sorry. I'm just rewatching this clip over and over again of Holland scoring that.
It's it's abysmal, man. It's abysmal. Like this generational throwing.
I don't know if people make like worst goals of the season, like compilations, but that needs to be up there.
He can be over in a couple of them, man. Him and Onana going bar for bar, man. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts, Eric. Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was about to ask Eric if you have any thoughts on what you've seen from the highlights.
Yeah. So I actually, going back to what's the guy's name? The new player on City, the guy what is it?
Kovacic, was it? Let me see.
The new guy, Kushanov.
Kushanov. That's who yeah. So did you guys attribute that error to like? So are you seeing that? I know neither of y'all are City fans, but y'all see that and think like, man, this guy's just nervous. It's his first ball, in the Premier League, and like.
No, I'm genuinely confused why he did that. Like, I don't even care about the context of that. Like, the height the ball was at, you did not need to bend over and hit that with your head. Like, that was just unnecessary. You could have chested it, shielded the ball, brought it outwards instead of just further bringing it in, which is always the more dangerous move. To me, that's just like a defending 101 in a way.
Right. So you guys are holding it against him. You guys aren't like.
No, I feel sympathetic personally. Like, I get it. It's not easy to come in and play your first game. I know it's not Chelsea of 2012 or something, but it still is a big game, and especially because City aren't on the best form. This wasn't like a guaranteed win for them. So I think there was definitely pressure. I think he thought he was making the safe decision, even though the ball was at a really awkward height, and maybe he doesn't know. He didn't do his homework. That Jackson is very like tenacious, and he will chase down everything. But yeah, it was just by far the wrong decision. And I'm sure he will not make a similar one for the rest of the season. If he does, you can come back and hold me to that.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, he might be seeing the bench soon because of that. Who knows? Maybe Pep will give him more chances. But someone who's not even been on the bench has been Marcus Rashford, who I just wanted some quick thoughts on him, because this dude, Fabrizio Romano, just can't stand going a day without talking about Marcus Rashford and how he's not in the team for Man U. Once again, he was not in the team. Not a shocker to anyone who's a Man United fan because of what we've heard before. He's not applying himself in training, all that sort of thing. But this week, there were some big waves with Ruben Amorim's comments after the game, essentially saying he would put in his goalkeeping coach before putting in Rashford. Or more specifically, he said any player who wasn't giving their maximum effort in training and in their lifestyle and in their commitment to the team. Visibly, we've seen Rashford hasn't had the commitment. few weeks ago. He said he wanted a new challenge, and that usually means going to another team, playing in another league. But I thought Amorim's comments this week, I think it's good he's standing his ground and kind of ramping up the tone of things. I think players have gotten away in the past of not applying themselves and still starting for the team because they needed to, or because they had maybe more control over the coach and the culture of the club. But I'm just curious what you think so far, if this is a bad move for Amorim, what this means for Rashford, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I will say, like, as a Man U fan, like I said, I haven't been super involved with the progression, or I guess you could say regression, of the team over the past few years. But I know Marcus Rashford came in with high expectations, and he hasn't fully, he's been a little bit of a disappointment. But this, as an adamant NBA fan, it's funny because it very much so reminded me of the current Miami Heat Jimmy Butler saga, which seems to be on a similar trajectory. This player that came into this team, Jimmy came in like towards what appeared to be like the tail end of his career, but regardless had high success with the team. But because of his posture, because of his comments, because of basically like off the court antics, just to be frank, like there's been kind of a tension that's built up between him and the front office, and there's been public comments made on both sides, and there appears to be some kind of pressure in the Miami Heat. There's definitely pressure for the front office to get rid of Jimmy before the trade deadline in February. So I see this current drama with Marcus Rashford, and I'm like, man, that's a very similar situation going on. You got a star player who does not seem to see eye to eye with the team, with the coach, with the administration, and it looks like there's going to be a very big move coming very soon. So as a fan, I'm not mad at it. I'm honestly just more curious, and I'm excited to see what comes from this.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm mad about it at all. I think it's kind of just a natural separation that needs to happen, and to be honest, I think it's more of a media issue of them keep asking and bringing this up every game. It's like, if a player's not starting, like, it's pretty obvious why they're not starting. If they're not on the bench, it's pretty obvious why. Why do we have to keep asking this all the time? We already have the rumors of Rashford maybe going to Barca if they stop being broke and get some money up. I think the other team, what was the other team he was maybe going to go to? AC Milan was rumored at some point. So he might have options. The window ends at the end of January, so we'll see. But I think it's something that needs to happen. Rashford, unfortunately, hasn't worked out. We have other players who are just doing better. And unfortunately, I think things just need to come to an end.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Honestly, the English media are just annoying, so I can understand why. Like, they're just spamming the same questions, and Amorim's like, bro, like, just fed up probably. But I think, yeah, Rashford, he's got to go. He will be going, it seems like. Whether or not they get it done in time, I'm sure there's like a bunch of talks happening. I know they're also looking, we talked about this last week, they're also looking at potentially a Garnacho sale and losing two players on the left at the same time. I know Rashford's not playing anyway, so like you're not really having that big a loss, but that would be kind of rough if they don't bring anyone in. But then at the same time, though, as two academy players, that's a lot of profit in theory. So I think Rashford out is a win-win, honestly. For United, you get that out of the dressing room. You move forward, hopefully bring in someone else. And
maybe Pogba, if you've seen the latest.
They're looking at bringing Pogba back?
Pog might be back on the table.
That would be interesting, honestly. That would be very interesting, especially in this system. But yeah, I think it's a win-win for sure. And I think if Rashford, especially, like he said, he wants a new challenge. He should want to be out in United, go somewhere else. Yeah. Test your skills somewhere else. But if you really want a challenge, bro, go to Southampton. Like, come on, bro. But in general, I think it's the right move for all parties involved.
Yeah, I think it's just that time. I support Rashford and whatever he goes on to do. I'm glad he's been handling this in a mature way too. After the comments, he just posted on his IG story like, "Congrats on the win, lads," and that was it. No Sancho drama of like, "It's on ice, the match is lying." So we don't have to deal with any of that.
You just can't help.
I'm just saying. It speaks a lot to their respective characters.
Well, to be fair, I think. Well, yeah, Sancho. He was dealing with Ten Hag. That's a different story. That dude's a joke. But also, I think
he's not a joke, bro. Sancho's the joke with his stats. But, anyways,
if you think Ten Hag's not a joke, then you're part of the problem for Man U. I'll just put it that way. But also, I think Rashford, despite how things have gone recently, is a very important figure in the recent history of Man U. Mm-hmm. So I think he deserves a level of respect from the organization and from the fans.
I'll never forget that night in Paris, man. That night in Paris.
That's kind of sus when you put it like that, but I understand what
oh my God. That.
I understand what you meant.
Look up the Man U game versus PSG back in the day. I don't know, a few years ago now.
He was cooking.
He was cooking back then.
But yeah, I know Amorim doesn't have that history with him, so he's going to say what he's going to say. But I think overall, it should be an amicable split because it's the best for all parties, and he also is, in his own way, I wouldn't say a legend. I think you can't give out legend too easily.
No.
But in recent history, I think he's been a recent hero. I'll put it that way for United.
He was supposed to be Alex Hunter, man, but...
Martial.
Martial also.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's ended up as a notable figure in the history of Man U. And if he pops off on another team, he can always come back.
That'd be weird. At least Amorim's still there. I don't see how.
If Amorim is still there. I hope Amorim's still there. So in that case, maybe not. Amorim?
No,
Rashford.
Like 27.
I want to say like 27, 26.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he'll do a little retirement tour at Man U, but I don't think you're going to get any peak Rashford anytime soon after this.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, well, the final topic we'll be discussing today is a little different, something we haven't talked about yet on this podcast, but we'll be introducing it slowly here and there on the pod. It's some music, and recently, if you guys don't know, Central Cee, big rapper out of the UK, probably the in recent times the most popular rapper to come out of the UK. I'd probably say, TikTok blew him up, and TikTok does this thing, but he recently dropped an album this past weekend on Friday, and on that album he has a song called 5 Star, where he drops a bar directed at a certain other UK rapper named Aitch from Manchester, Mane. And the bar says, "I felt like a prick when I went to the Brits and they gave the award to a guy called Aitch." And Aitch very quickly said, "I'm not having it." Within 24 hours, he apparently writes a song and a diss track called A Guy Called, where he responds to Central Cee, sends for him, goes after him. And I just want to know what you guys think about that. If you guys have heard the two songs, how familiar you guys are with the artists, who you prefer, what you guys think about this potential beef. And there's been a resolution to the beef, but we could talk about that after these initial thoughts.
Yeah. So for context, I've always liked Central Cee. I would never call myself a fan until this album came out. I really enjoyed this latest album, and I'm willing to call myself a fan now. And so for me, just, following hip hop and previous beefs, just saying like A Guy Called Aitch, like, yeah, I could see that as a tiny sneak diss, but not at all worth the dude going and recording a track and dropping that in 24 hours. That just seems like hella effort and just almost waiting for the opportunity to be in the big lights. And like, this happened to be that opportunity. So this doesn't really seem very genuine for me, like from H's perspective. Like I see this as more as him trying to get his name out there. I never heard of this dude until this beef, so it's working. Congratulations. I heard one of your songs today. So in that respect, like I get it, but I think it's stupid, bruh. I don't think, just the delivery of the bar too. It didn't seem like anything crazy negative either.
Yeah, fair. Kind of disrespectful the way you're discussing H, but fair enough. I don't think he has crossed over to the U.S. So maybe you could see that as an angle where he's trying to get his name out by interacting with probably the biggest UK rapper in the U.S. right now. So I can see that perspective. But to give a little more context that I didn't bring up before, this is referencing the Brit Awards, I think from 2022 or 2023, where H won an award over Central Cee and a few other big. I think Skepta was in that. Dave was in that. A few other like big artists were in that, and H won the award. And right after that, the guy named Clint, I'm not going to pretend like I know who he is, but the guy named Clint, who he's alleging ghost rights for Central Cee in his diss track, actually basically called out H and said like it was rigged, and H dissed him back then. So for Central Cee to bring up something now in 2025, I know you said the line itself, it doesn't seem too crazy, but I think because it's so far removed, it is kind of like an unnecessary shot. I read it as a shot anyway, so I think it's justified if you're like really about rapping. And H is known to be like have good lyrical ability and really be about like the craft versus like Central Cee. Not to disrespect him, I love his flows and like his beat selections and stuff, but from what I've heard anyway, it hasn't been the craziest lyrics. But I haven't heard the album, so I will say.
Let me disrespect this guy H for a second,
Okay.
then in response, because look, this dude Central Cee in his latest album dropped bars, and I'm serious. The beats were crazy. His lyricism and everything was insane. I thought I thought of Central Cee as like that TikTok rapper who had a couple good songs. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear that, Jim, cool. But this album proved he's more than that to me. And so for him to have this diss, which is essentially what do you say fuck me for? Like that's what I feel like would be the responsible reaction if I were H. Like, why do you say that about me? Like, not to go to the booth and be like, yeah, screw this dude. I'm gonna drop something ASAP right now and like murder his career. Like that just seems so extraordinary. So I just think it's stupid. And honestly, bro, he looks like he'd like be on a local television commercial, like owning like a rug store or something. This dude does not look like a rapper.
Wow, rug stores. Wow,
You're dogging him. You're actually dogging him. I like H. I'm not gonna participate in that slander. I think it's also part of the UK culture they seem to really like diss tracks in the UK, like the battle scene out there. I won't say I'm the most informed, but it seems like this is like par for the course to send for man, as they would say out there. But I don't know if you have any thoughts, Eric.
I'm gonna be honest, y'all. You know, like this over the past few years, I have transitioned off of rap and just a lot of music in general. But obviously, I do know who Central Cee is. I was on TikTok. Not a big fan. I like even like when I was listening to rap, wasn't a fan of Central Cee. That's just personal preference. And I mean, this just looks like, you know, little beef. But beyond that, man, I don't really have much to say on this. Maybe like high school me would have been super hype, but me right now, this just is not something that is really something that I engaged in.
But someone who is in hip hop right now, like as someone who's listening and following this stuff, like I have the same reaction though. That's the thing. Like this is kind of like whatever. Like this, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really have like something backing it, like a Drake or Kendrick. Not saying it should be that scale, but
I think it's also tough to follow that up. I feel like every beef since then has been like, yeah, we're really good. I know, like, recently there's been some more like East Coast, West Coast rappers trying to do their own little thing. Like, I ain't listened to those songs. I ain't gonna lie to you. As someone, I also give context who hasn't been super big into hip hop in the last few years. Like, even this, I just thought it was interesting, because these are UK rappers, and these are maybe not for us, but in the UK, these are like two of the biggest rappers out. So maybe for them, this had the potential to be something really cool for them, the way Kendrick Drake was for us. But like, Central Cee commented on H's Instagram post where he dropped the song with a laughing emoji, fire emoji, and said, "Fair enough." So clearly, yeah, he wants no part of this. He wants no smoke, and this is not going anywhere. I doubt he's ever going to respond to this, and it seems like this is the end of that. But I think it maybe had the potential to be something cool in the UK. Obviously, we're not in the UK, so really, this probably would have been the last I ever checked out of this myself. But the only reason why I was defending H against your tirade on the guy, because I have seen him on like in YouTube videos and stuff with like some of the big UK creators, and he seems like a chill guy. But clearly, you have stronger opinions on him. So
Look, they're not that strong. I'm just like, look, dude, I'm listening to this album. I like this album. This dude trying to start beef and ruin my happiness of listening to this album. Like, come on, man. For what? Being called a guy? You are a guy, are you not? Come on.
That's crazy. But okay, interesting discussion. Yeah, I had nothing else. If you guys have anything else to add to this, I don't. But yeah, that was fun. That was a fun episode as well. Thanks for watching, everyone who watched, listened, whatever. We should be back next week with another episode. Check out also, we're dropping segments on the YouTube channel, so I'm sure if you reach the end of this that you don't need to listen to the segments. But you know, if you know someone who might not want to watch a whole podcast and maybe would want to watch a little clip here or there, you have segments as well, so check those out. But this was fun. If you guys have any final thoughts.
That's it, man. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Absolutely. Can't wait for this weekend, y'all. We didn't get to the wrestling this week, but this weekend is the Royal Rumble, y'all. So I am excited. I'm gonna make sure we talk about that on Monday. So just a little forewarning for Alexi. Cover your ears. You can come in a little bit late to the meeting if you want to the call, to the recording. But
this
I will be
Kiss
watching.
member gonna be back on there.
Absolutely, man. Penta, man. We riding with my dog Penta, man. I'm excited, man. If y'all can't hear it in my voice, I literally cannot wait. And like I said, man, we're recording this on Monday night. Just letting y'all know, man, this is taking over. WWE taking over, wrestling taking over, man. I'll see y'all next week.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Peace.